Dasa Vrindavanam Vande Krishna Dasa Prabhutata Chanavatar Chaitanya Lila Vishtar Kadino Do Nityananda Parabja Karunarena Bhushito Vyatachano Burachincho Vavande Vyasadupino Shri Guru Gaur Gandharva Govindascha Ganaisaha Jayanti Patakastracha Sarvesham Gurunartino. So we are continuing with Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and see if this will go just a little bit lower. And we have completed the chapter on Advaita Acharya, and we've now come to chapter 7 of the Adi Lila, which is glorifying the Panchatattva.
Do you mind having this slide?
It's okay, yeah, sure, I'll handle it. I know it's better for the camera. Yeah, it's better for the camera, I know, yeah. It's fine, yeah. As long as this one's off, then I can handle it. Okay, here we go. Agatyeka gitim natva hinartadika sadakam Shri Chaitanyam likyate sya prema bhakti vadanyata. Let me first offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the ultimate goal of life for one bereft of all possessions in this material world, and is the only meaning for one advancing in spiritual life. Thus let me write about his magnanimous contribution of devotional service and love of God. Jaya Jaya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Chaitanya Tahar Charana Shita Se Bodhananya. Let me offer glorification to the Supreme Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One who has taken shelter of his lotus feet is the most glorified person. Purve Gurvadi Choi Tattve Koilo Namaskar Guru Tattva Kohi Achiyebe Panche Vichar. In the beginning, I have discussed the truth about the spiritual master. Now I shall try to explain the Panchatattva. Panchatattva Vatirna Chaitanyera Sanghe Panchatattva Loya Koren Sankirtan Range. These 5 tattvas incarnate with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and thus the Lord executes his Sankirtan movement with great pleasure. Panchatattva ekavastu nahi kichu bed rasa swadita tobo vivida vibed. Spiritually, there are no differences between these 5 tattvas, for on the transcendental platform, everything is absolute. Yet there are also varieties in the spiritual world, and in order to taste these spiritual varieties, one should distinguish between them. So it seems like this is explaining this principle of achincha veda bhed, right? That from there's one perspective of everything being one, right? And then also that there is distinction and variety simultaneously, right? I'm going to read this purport. In his Anubhashya commentary, Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes the Panchatattva as follows. The supreme energetic, the personality of Godhead, manifesting in 5 kinds of pastimes, appears as the Panchatattva. Actually, there is no difference between them because they are situated on the absolute platform. But they manifest different spiritual varieties as a challenge to impersonalists to taste different kinds of spiritual humors. In the Vedas it is said, Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. The varieties of energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are differently known. From this statement of the Vedas, one can understand that there are eternal varieties of humors or tastes, or rasa, right, is the Sanskrit word, in the spiritual world. Shri Gauranga, Shri Nityananda, Shri Advaita, Shri Gadadhar, and Srivas are all on the same platform. But in spiritually distinguishing between them, one should understand that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the form of a devotee. Nityananda Prabhu appears in the form of a devotee spiritual master. Advaita Prabhu is the form of a bhakta, devotee incarnation. Gadadhar Prabhu is the energy of a bhakta. And Shivas, or key word being energy here, I pronounced it a little wrong. The Shakti, right? Gadadhar Pandit represents the feminine potency, right? Shakti of the Lord. And Shivas is a pure devotee. Thus there are spiritual distinctions between them. The Bhakta Rupa, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Bhakta Swarup, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and the Bhakta Avatar, Sri Advaita Prabhu, are described as the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, His immediate manifestation, and His plenary expansion, and they all belong to the Vishnu category. Although the spiritual and marginal energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, they are predominated subjects, whereas Lord Vishnu is the predominator. As such, they are on the same platform. Although they are on the same platform, they have appeared differently in order to facilitate tasting of transcendental mellows. Actually, however, there is no possibility of one being different from the other, for the worshipper and the worshipable cannot be separated at any stage. And the absolute platform, one cannot be understood without the other. So in our case also, right, we are Jiva Tattva, right? And of course Srivas Thakur here is representing that Tattva of the Lord, that manifestation of the Lord's energy, right, you can say. And the Lord does so. Why? Like ultimately, if we really want to get to the root of it, like why has He created us? For His own play, right? And this is what's being mentioned here, to create some variety, right? To create more dynamic and variegated field of play, right? So He can exchange love in different ways, right? That is the real purpose, right, for which He created us. And for that reason, He has to also give us free will, or He wants to give us all the gift of free will, because it is the principle here is love. The central principle is love. The key point is love. And so free will must be in the background of love. Free choice, right? That we want to play with Him too. He always wants to play with us, right? But do we want to play with Him? So He's just waiting, right? He's waiting. Very patiently. And so three of these, of these five principles, right, in the Pancha Tattva, three are representing the Vishnu Tattva side, right, the predominating side of things, and then the two, the Shakti and then Jiva Tattva, Jiva Shakti, these two, Shakti in the sense of the Lord's consort, right, who Gadadhar is representing. These two, they are predominated, right, they're representing that side. And all different energies of the Lord, as it's explained here so nicely, manifested by the Lord's will for more variety in His own play. Right? And now this verse everyone knows. Pancha tattva yakam krishnam bhakta rupa sarupakam bhaktavatanam bhaktakyam namami bhakta shaktikam. Let me offer my obeisances unto Lord Shri Krishna, who has manifested Himself in five as a devotee, expansion of a devotee, incarnation of a devotee, pure devotee, and devotional energy. So this, it can be a little confusing, right? But expansion, so this is Nityananda Prabhu, right? And this is a more, because the Lord expands in many different forms, right? Different manifestations. But some are closer to the original and some are a little more distant, right? And so Nityananda Prabhu, he's a direct expansion, right, from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or we can say Baladev, direct expansion. First expansion from Krishna, actually, right? And then Advaita Acharya is described as an avatar, which implies, they've descended into this world, right? And they are coming from Vishnu, right? So also an expansion. Incarnation of a devotee, pure devotee, and devotional energy. I'll read this purport. Sri Nityananda Prabhu is the immediate expansion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his brother. He is the personified spiritual bliss of Satchidananda Vigraha. His body is transcendental and full of ecstasy and devotional service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is therefore called Bhakta Rupa, the form of a devotee. And Nityananda Prabhu is called Bhakta Swarup, the expansion of a devotee. Advaita Prabhu, the incarnation of a devotee, is Vishnu Tattva and belongs to the same category. There are also different types of bhaktas or devotees on the platforms of neutrality, servitude, friendship, paternity, and conjugal love. Devotees like Sri Damodar, Sri Gadadhar, and Sri Ramananda are different energies. This confirms the Vedic sutra, Padasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shuyate. All these bhakta subjects taken together constitute Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself. Swayam Bhagavan Krishna Ekale Ishva Advitiya Nandad Majarasika Shekhar. Krishna, the reservoir of all pleasure.
Vishakadiri ki jai.
Krishna, the reservoir of all pleasure, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, the Supreme Controller. No one is greater than or equal to Sri Krishna, yet he appears as the son of Maharaj Nanda. So this is very charming, right? That who is Krishna, right? He is the Supreme Lord, Supreme Ishvara, Supreme Master and Controller of all. And yet, because he is an enjoyer of rasa, Rasika Shekhar, he also appears as the son of Nanda Maharaj, right? He chooses to appear in this very simple way, right? It's a cowherd boy. So it is very nice the way that Kaviraj Goswami has phrased it here. He is the Supreme Ishvara, he is Swayam Bhagavan, but he is also Rasika Shekhar. Right? He is the supreme taster of all rasa, right? Of all pleasure. And so he's appearing as a young cowherd boy. Rasadi Vilasi Braja Lalana Nagar Arojata Sabde Katar Parikar. Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the supreme enjoyer in the rasa dance. He is the leader of the damsels of Braja, and all others are simply his associates. Say Krishna Vatirna, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Say Parikar Gan Sangha Sabdanya. The self-same Lord Krishna advented himself as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with all his eternal associates, who are also equally glorious. Ekala Ishwar Tattva Chaitanya Ishwar Bhakta Bhava Moitar Shuddha Kalevar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Supreme Controller, the one personality of Godhead, has ecstatically become a devotee. Yet his body is transcendental and not materially tinged. So this is a very special Leela of the Lord, right? That he is the Supreme Absolute, the origin of all. But he wants to taste this, right? What it is to be a devotee of the Lord, right? So this is a very great moment, which is recorded in the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the Lord, he never does anything alone, so he is always accompanied by his beloved associates. And so we are hearing about that also. Krishna Madhurjaya Gadbhut Swabhav Apana Swadita Krishna Kore Bhakta Bhav. The transcendental mellow of conjugal love of Krishna is so wonderful that Krishna himself accepts the form of a devotee to relish and taste it fully. Ite Bhakta Bhav Dore Chaitanya Gosai Bhakta Sarupta Nityananda Bhai. For this reason, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Teacher, accepts the form of a devotee and accepts Lord Nityananda as his elder brother. Bhaktavatata Acharya Gosai Etin Tattva Sabe Prabhu Kodigai. Sri Advaita charges Lord Chaitanya's incarnation as a devotee. Therefore, these three tattvas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Gosai, are the predominators or masters. Ekka Mahaprabhu Prabhu Dui Jan, Dui Prabhu Sebe Mahaprabhu Charan. One of them is Mahaprabhu, and the other two are Prabhus. These two Prabhus serve the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. So Prabhu is already a very big word, right? It's a high title. It means master, right? And traditionally that was used for one's guru, right? Only, or the Lord. Yeah, the word Prabhu. It means like master. It is a very high word to use, and so he's saying, right, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita, and in the group of Mahaprabhu's associates, I think it was just these three, right, that we hear of who are Prabhu. Nityananda, Advaita, they are two Prabhus, and then Mahaprabhu, right, the Supreme Prabhu, the Supreme Master, right. And then, of course, it was a very special adjustment, that Saraswati Thakur incorporated that word, right, to be used for those who are initiated, right, on the path. And it was his very high Paramahamsa vision, actually, because Saraswati Thakur had that vision of seeing his own disciples as his masters, right, that he saw that his guru was coming to him through his disciples. He had that very high vision, that he expressed the sentiment that I'm unable to fulfill all the service of my Guru Maharaj, and so my Guru has mercifully come to me in this, as an extension in the form of my disciples, and so he used the word Prabhu, right, to refer to them, and so that became the custom, right. But it's good that we remember what it means actually, and it's not something we want to throw around casually. Sometimes it gets used as like, hey dude, right?
Yeah, we don't think, when we say Prabhu, we don't think, you're the master. We should actually.
Well, I was thinking that, I see it especially in India. Sometimes the Western devotees come and they're calling everyone Prabhu. Jai, speaking of Prabhu, Jai Gadadhar Prabhu. Like they're calling everybody, the shopkeepers and the rickshawalas and hey Prabhu, and like that, But it is something we're using carefully, right, for those who are serious practitioners on the path,
And the word Didi, that's like the equivalent.
No, not exactly. But it is a term of respect. But Prabhu is something that would be used for the Lord or your Guru. That's very special category. Didi would be used as a reverential term. Means older sister, actually. And yeah, I would say we also use that a little more loosely now than previously. Also, there's confusion over Devi Dasi and Didi, right?
You have only two choices, huh? Devi Dasi or Didi.
No, but I'm saying sometimes or often devotees, they think it's the same and that the Didi is short for Devi Dasi, but it's actually different. Yeah, and the Didi usually will be used for like a deeper expression of respect, an older sister. And Gurudev, we heard that Gurudev, later on he kind of adjusted, but previously he said he only said Didi for, I think it was two ladies. I only said Didi for two ladies. One was Rama Didi, who was Srila Sridhar Maharaj's sister, right? And then maybe Krishna Mai was the other one, right? So he mentioned that once, like it wasn't a word that he would just, use lightly for anyone. But now culturally, we use it a little more broadly. Okay. And Gurudev also mentioned that it never really took off, but he mentioned that he liked when you're addressing someone, you say Prabhu first. So like instead of Giradhar Prabhu, you say Prabhu Giradhar. Because it's more respectful, actually. He liked that.
He didn't really try and push for that.
No, he didn't. And I don't think he really did it very much himself. But he mentioned that, yeah. Yeah, you heard that too, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
But it used to be Dada and Didi, right? Because Dada is the male equivalent of Didi.
Right, older brother, yeah.
Mm.
Did you hear that used before, the Dada?
No, not in the Gaudiya, well, not in Gaudiya Vaishnava context.
Okay.
I don't know what they used before when addressing contemporaries or even, as a general term of address.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe Didi has always been used as a female term of address.
Mm-hmm.
But for males, I don't know what they did before Saraswati Thakur introduced Prabhu.
Mm-hmm. When I was
don't know what they said, I should say.
Right. But did you hear Dada used before?
Dada is used in other, like there's a Bengali mutt called the Ananda Marga.
Okay.
And they have Dadas and Didis.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? That makes sense.
Yeah. Dada and Didi.
Mm-hmm. When I was in the mutt, a lot of the Bengalis would call me Vishaka D. They would say, because I was like a young girl, so instead of like DD, they'd call me D for short, but Vishaka D, like that. Yeah, it's a funny thing. Yeah, I never quite got it. It's still like Devashish will use that, and also Madhusudamar. So, like if they write me a message sometimes, they'll put like that, Vishaka D, like half of the older sister. Yeah, so many things evolve like just idiomatically, right? And then may not, like also Dandavat pranams is, it's kind of idiom. The Dandavat thing's kind of an idiom, isn't it? It doesn't make sense really. Because Dandavat means like a stick, like laying out like a stick, and I think that's only in our mata that somehow come about, right? We don't hear that in other places. Anyway.
I made the mistake of calling an older woman of a different institution Didi.
Aha.
She got quite annoyed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was in writing. I'd never even met her.
Okay.
Corresponding about a book or something.
Mm-hmm.
She was living in Vrindavan. She'd been around for many, many years. Perhaps a disciple of Prabhupada.
Okay.
And I wrote Didi.
Instead of, they say Mataji, right?
Well, Prabhu now.
That's right, they say
Male
Prabhu,
terms.
yeah. Yeah, I've been called Prabhu too, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds very weird if you know the correct terminology, but
Yeah.
it's like, that's the nature of certain attitudes in the West, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
They want to be called Mataji, right?
No, they want to be called Prabhu.
Oh, yeah, still.
And they found, well, yeah, this is feminist ideology. Essentially is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they've found some arcane justification of it. There's some use of Prabhu in relation to a female somewhere at some time in history. But, I mean, you know, perhaps it's just terminologies in the end, but
Yeah.
it sounds a bit weird if you are following the traditional system, traditional terminologies, and then someone's kind of completely, you know, using it in a different, like changing the gender context. If you have a gender, like a language that uses gender-specific terms, and someone doesn't use that, you immediately notice it's out of place, it's grammatically incorrect. So it's a bit like that. But yeah, I think Mataji was the traditional term that was used in ISKCON. At least that's what was used when I was growing up in ISKCON.
Yeah.
Was Mataji.
Yeah. I think they do both, the Mataji and Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yeah, do both. Yeah, but Gurudev didn't like the Mataji thing because of some association with that word.
Oh yeah, I heard someone mentioning that. Was maybe, no, it wasn't because it was more recently. So it came from Gurudev.
That's what I've heard, yeah. That's what I've
What
heard.
was it related to? Or
Well,
later.
What is the meaning of Mataji?
Mata's mother, right? And Ji is like a term of respect. Mataji. The term is very nice. It's just sometimes things get a certain associations with them,
Okay.
and then the word gets a bit spoiled, and so yeah, for that reason. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny how many things are they're just totally idiomatic, but then people can become very sensitive about them. Because like also with the Srila, Shripad, Shriman, I think they're all more or less the same in terms of language. But nowadays there tends to be kind of very precise usage of them, right?
But you said Srimati is like when you're married.
That's how we use it now. That's how it's been used, yeah. Srimatis for a married woman only, yeah. I think a lot of it is just custom, right? That's just kind of how things became.
But otherwise you use them both for female and male. The Shri...
No, well, I'm saying, like, for example, now we tend to use Srila for someone who's an acharya, like an initiating guru, and then just Shripad will be for sannyasi or a man who's, not necessarily a guru and like that. And then Shriman is used for a man, but the actual meaning is all more or less the same.
But the
in
equivalent
Sanskrit.
of these for a woman, what would it be?
We don't really... we have a few words. There's Srimati, which is for married women. They have the Sri Yukta, which some devotees are using. Sri Yukta. Also, just Shri is fine. They're all just related. Like, I remember once we were looking at the meanings, and it was like one who brings about Shri, one who inspires Shri, one who has Shri. Like, it's all Shri, basically. So, but anyway.
That's nice, Sri. Right?
Yeah.
Bring that up.
It's probably, if they are masculine, I'm not familiar if they're considered masculine terms.
That's true, that's a
Sanskrit.
good point, actually.
But they may be, and then often the feminine version is to change the vowel at the end.
Right, that's true. Yeah, that's
So, Srimani, I don't know. Is that incorrect? Is that grammatically correct or not? Is that a word? Srimati is. Srimat would be the masculine. Srimati.
Right.
Shripadi, I don't know. Maybe. But there's been so few women in that position of being addressed using those kind of honorifics.
Right.
That, we're not really, the proper word usage doesn't immediately spring to mind.
Right.
The applicable words, the appropriate words.
Right.
It's also a little bit like, because in Saraswati Thakur's mud, the Gaudiya mud, it was a men's institution. There were no women in the mud.
Right.
And so the term Prabhu was used for the men in the mud. There's no doubt that is how it was used.
Right.
And they say maybe
Right,
on
that's a
instance.
good point, yeah.
Yeah. But then, in ISKCON's current usage, among certain circles, I think they found one instance where Prabhupada said Prabhu, maybe even accidentally to a woman or something.
Right.
That is, we're in.
Right.
We got it. We got our scriptural justification.
Right.
But Prabhupada originally, he wanted ISKCON just to be modelled on the Gaudiya Math. And then he realized as soon as he got to the West that it wasn't going to work. He needed to incorporate, because the young girls and young boys joining, and he thought, it's impossible not to incorporate the ladies into the month as well.
Right.
So he started his temples with both living there.
Right.
But traditionally, the Gaudiya Math, the Gaudiya Math was the first instance of Gaudiya Vaishnavism being institutionalized.
Right.
And it was institutionalized as a monastic institution, essentially. You had married men and women, and I guess their families, supporting, living as part of the congregation. But actually in the temple, it was only single men.
Right.
Brahmacharis, sannyasis, and, white brahmacharis, sannyasis, etc.
I just remember about an incident, like somebody's coming to visit Saraswati Thakur, and then there's a lady who comes to offer him prasadam at the end of the discussion or something, and then that visitor says, you take from a non-Brahminical lady. You remember that incident? And then he said, yes, even you would benefit if you would take this prasadam. Something like that. You remember, right? So there were ladies around.
Of course.
Yeah, she wouldn't be shouldn't have been living. Yeah, she would have been coming in from...
Yes, they would come and go.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there weren't. Saraswati Thakur had many lady disciples, I believe.
Yeah.
And there were many, like the secretary of the month, Kunja Babu, he was a grihast, he had a wife and children, etc. And I'm sure he wasn't an isolated, example. There were many grihastas. Prabhupada was a disciple of Saraswati Thakur, he's a grihasta. So, probably most of the congregation of the Gaudiya Math, most of Saraswati Thakur's disciples were grihastas.
Yeah.
And both the husband and the wife, and probably in many cases the children too, would be initiated, just as we have today. But there were no females living in the months.
No.
I don't know of one example of any female living there. Actually, Param Gurudev was very strict on that as well. And Madhusudana Maharaj was telling me that. He was actually very reluctant to make any exceptions, but he did with Ramadidi and
Shankari.
yeah, there were it ended up being some 4 or so.
Yeah.
of much older women who'd already been married, etc. And he allowed them, out of sort of respect or compassion or both, whatever, to come in. To come and live in the mud. But generally, he was quite strict on that. And of course, that as the mission grew and became, grew in the West, then various concessions and accommodations had to be made, just as Prabhupada realized when he was establishing ISKCON in New York that he wouldn't be able to uphold that standard. But Guru Maharaj also wanted to uphold that. Madhusudana Maharaj was telling me that he didn't want ladies living in the mud during his time. But he did make a couple of exceptions, a very older woman.
Well, in this age, I would say what would be ideal is you have women's ashrams and you have men's ashrams. And Gurudev opens the women's ashram, ladies' ashram in San Jose, right, which he was very happy about. So that's really it's not a matter of it being only men, but it's like it's gender, specific, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's ideal.
Yeah, I'm just saying that traditionally, when it was institutionalized by Saraswati Thakur, when these mutts were created, it was only men. And you say even without the institution before then, they had the ashrams, and it was just men living in the ashram.
Yes.
Maybe at the time of Janavamata, I don't know how she worked it. Maybe there were no ashrams as such. Like it was more of an affiliation.
It's true. That's more. It wasn't so much that they would live in designated temples, right? Things were a bit more organic, and like this, the sannyasis would generally be traveling and staying in grihastas' homes, right? So, what Saraswati Thakur instituted was something quite revolutionary, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all organized really for I think two main points. One is the preaching, and one is the association. So you have places for association, and you have organized, cohesive preaching enterprises. And of course, the sannyas ashram was developed to support mainly the preaching work. Or reintroduced, we should say, by Saraswati Thakur. And Prabhu, like you were making the point, right, that it was in his deep humility and appreciation for his disciples that he introduced the term Prabhu to be used. But nowadays it's used a lot more flippantly.
Flippant is the word, yeah.
And even sometimes derogatively.
Right.
You're in Maya, Prabhu. You're a fallen soul, Prabhu. You need to shape up or ship out, Prabhu. Kind of losing touch of the original purpose, the original spirit of the term.
Right.
Oxymoron.
Right.
Yeah. Oxymoron, yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we'll continue a little bit here. Hitin tattva sarva rajya kodi mani chaturta jay bhakta tattva dadaka jani. The three predominators, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Prabhu, are worshipable by all living entities. And the fourth principle, Sri Gadadhar Prabhu, is to be understood as their worshipper. So, of course, Gadadhar is representing Radharani, right? The predominated moiety, supreme devotee, supreme aradhaka, supreme worshipper. Okay, so it's nice to look at the Bengali actually. Aradhya is who is worshipped, right? So Mahaprabhu, Nityananda, Advaita, Acharya, they're representing the Aradhya side, worshipable, to be worshipped, and then Aradhaka means the worshipper. So that is Gadadhar, is representing that. Shiva Sadi Jata Koti Koti Bhakta Gan Shura Bhakta Tattva Madhya Tasabada Ganan. There are innumerable pure devotees of the Lord, headed by Srivas Thakur, who are known as unalloyed devotees. Gadadhar Panditadi Prabhu Shakti Avatar Antaranga Bhakta Kodi Ganen Jahar. The devotees headed by Gadadhar Pandit are to be considered incarnations of the potency of the Lord, Shakti Avatar. They are internal potential devotees. Oh, this is interesting. So the Swami Maharaj uses the word potential, but not in the sense of someone who has potency. Interesting. I didn't know that was a word. They are internal, potential devotees engaged in the service of the Lord. So in the sense that they are Shakti, right? That's interesting. Did you know that word like that? Or?
I'm not convinced it's the correct use.
Okay.
Maybe.
It works though, doesn't it?
Does it work romantically? Well, I guess.
I mean, technically, according to the dictionary, maybe not. But
Yeah.
I can see why some would have done that, actually.
Potential as in of the potency.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
In the future.
No,
right?
no, already having it.
Okay.
Not
Yeah, no,
waiting
he's
to
not
be
using it like that. Yeah, he's not using it like
He's
that.
using it in terms like potentized.
Yeah, potentized, yeah. That might be. Yeah, it's antaranga bhakta, which internal energy of the Lord, right? Devotee of that category. Shakti, avatar, and antaranga bhakta, those are the Bengali terms here. That's interesting.
Antaranga is exactly?
Antaranga, well, there's these terms antaranga and bahiranga, right? Antaranga is referring to the internal spiritual potency of the Lord. Bahiranga, external. So sometimes the Maya Shakti is referred to as the bahiranga.
So, Sarup Shakti is like Antaranga.
Yeah, right? Say that, yeah. Yeah. Jasabaloya Prabhu Nitya Vihar, Jasabaloya Prabhu Kirtan Prachar, Jasabaloya Kodem Prema Swadan, Jasabaloya Dan Kode Prema Dan. The internal devotees or potencies are all eternal associates in the pastimes of the Lord. Only with them does the Lord advent to propound the Sankirtan movement. Only with them does the Lord taste the mellow of conjugal love, and only with them does he distribute this love of God to people in general. It's very sweet, the Bengali, very poetic. Ja sabaloya, like taking all of them. What is this word? Vihar. The Lord performs his eternal pastimes. Coming with all of them, the Lord spreads his kirtan movement. With all of them, the Lord is tasting prema. With all of them, the Lord is giving the gift of prema. Right? So, yeah, the poetry kind of emphasizes that the sentiment there, right? How he is inextricably intertwined with his devotees. And everything he does with his devotees.
And all of them, what is the translation in Bengali? All of them, what is the translation in Bengali?
The translation or the
The
Bengali?
collective of devotees. What is it? Sakala Raj.
What is the Bengali word? Okay. It's ja, sabba. Sabba means all. Sab is all. Loya. Loya is like taking... It's put here as taking company. Like, with all of them. You know? Yeah.
So Sabha. We have Vishva Vaishnava Raja Sabha.
That's a different word, actually. That's Sabha. That's S-A-B-H-A.
So that's not the word?
No. No, Sabha means like...
Form, eh?
Sabha means like an assembly or like an association or something. But this word here is sab.
Oh.
This is sab, it's like used simply in Bengali for all. Like sab samoy, people will say, all the time.
They're not etymologically connected, those two words?
I don't think so, because that one's B-H-A. And this is... Maybe they are. Maybe.
And Kadia.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, they have the same root, obviously.
Yeah, maybe, huh? Yeah.
Shakala, Sabha, Sarva.
Yeah, sakal and sub, it's like synonyms, yeah, could say. Yeah. Very beautiful. Se pancha tattvamili prithvi asya purva prema bandha der mudra ugadiya Panchemili lutte prem kore aswadan jatta jatta piye Krishna bade anukan. Wow. The characteristics of Krishna are understood to be a storehouse of transcendental love. Although that storehouse of love certainly came with Krishna when he was present, it was sealed. But when Mahaprabhu came with his other associates of the Panchatattva, they broke the seal and plundered the storehouse to taste transcendental love of Krishna. The more they tasted it, the more their thirst for it grew. Puna puna piyaya hoye mahamata nache kande hase gai jaiche madamata. The Panchatattva themselves danced again and again, and thus made it easier to drink nectarian love of Godhead. They danced, cried, laughed, and chanted like madmen, and in this way they distributed love of Godhead. Pacha pacha vicha nahi nahi stanastan je jaha pai taha kore premadan. This is a very nice verse. Shuddha Shabda Prabhu used to quote this is the first half of this. That pacha vichar nahi. Like they didn't consider, pacha is referring to recipients. So apatra, an unworthy recipients. Right? So vichar nahi, no consideration. Who's suitable, who's not suitable. And nor nahi stana stan. Stan is place, right? So stan, a place, suitable place, astan, unsuitable place. They didn't consider, right? Jai jaha pai, whoever will take it, taha kode premadan. To them they are giving prema. As simple as that. In distributing love of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates did not consider who was a fit candidate and who was not, nor where such distribution should or should not take place. They made no conditions. Wherever they got the opportunity, the members of the Panchatattva distributed love of Godhead. Hutya kaya diya banda ujade ascharja banda prema shatta guna bade. Although the members of the Panchatattva plundered the storehouse of love of Godhead and ate and distributed its contents, there was no scarcity. Plunder is usually used like referring to like stealing, thing like that. But in kind of a, how would you say, like an aggressive way?
Like looting.
Looting.
Like going in and taking everything.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, not just like you go in and take one thing, right?
No,
yeah, but you plunder, it's like it's a big operation, right? So it never ran out. The storehouse never ran out as much as they took and distributed. For this wonderful storehouse is so complete that as the love is distributed, the supply increases hundreds of times. And we can also think of this in connection with, in general, and of course in our humble way, but the distribution of Krishna consciousness, right? We hear that, Srila Sridhar Maharaj discusses that point, that as much as we will give, the more will come to us, right? As much as we will share Krishna consciousness, so much more will be extended to us, right? Because, they're not just holding on to it themselves, right? They're sharing that with others, and our guardians will be pleased, and they will extend more wealth to us. Right? Uchalila prema vanya chodike vedai, Shri Vrinda balakruva sabade duvai. The flood of love of God had swelled in all directions, and thus young men, old men, women, and children were all immersed in that inundation. Sajjan, Durjan. Sajjan means like a good, auspicious person. Durjan, bad person. Sajjan, Durjan, Pangu, Jadan, Dagan. So the blind, the lame, the stupid, everyone Prema Vanyai Duvaila Jagate Rajan. The Krishna consciousness movement will inundate the entire world and drown everyone, whether one be a gentleman, a rogue, or even lame, invalid, or blind. Is it in the future tense? Or maybe, I think maybe Swami Maharaj is just taking a bit of license for his own movement, right? It's very, I find it very charming. It's very charming, wonderful. Yeah, it's saying everybody drowns. The sajjan, the honest, good, truthful people, durjan, wicked people, pangu, lame people. Jada, which is translated here as invalid, but it can also just mean like a dull or stupid person. And then anda, blind. Prema vanyai, in the inundation of prema. Duvaila, they drowned. Jagaterajan, all the people of the world. I'll read this purport. Here again it may be emphasized that although jealous rascals protest that Europeans and Americans cannot be given the sacred thread or sannyas, there is no need even to consider whether one is a gentleman or a rogue, because this is a spiritual movement which is not concerned with the external body of skin and bones. Because it is being properly conducted under the guidance of the Panchatattva, strictly following the regulative principles, it has nothing to do with external impediments. And we can say, right, Swami Maharaj, this was his own translation, right? The Krishna consciousness movement will inundate the entire world. And can say it came true. It came true by his sacrifice and his dedicated seva, his guru. Jagat duvila jive hoilo bijanash tahadeki pancha jane paramahulas. When the 5 members of the Panchatattva saw the entire world drowned in love of Godhead, and the seed of material enjoyment in the living entities completely destroyed, they all became exceedingly happy. Jata jata prema vishti kore pancha jane tata tata bare jal vyapechi bhuvane. The more the 5 members of the Panchatattva cause the rains of love of Godhead to fall, the more the inundation increases and spreads all over the world. Well, maybe I'll stop there. Yeah, I think it's a good place to stop. Any last comments from anyone? Jai Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki Jai, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki Jai. Will you sing, Prabhu?
Hari Hari Nam Krishna. Hari Hari Nam Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Jai Saparikara Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Sundar Radha Giri Hadiju Ki Jai Jai Vishnu Pal Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Vishnu Pal Srila Bhakti Raka Sri Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Bharata Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Samadeva Vaishnava Mandala Ki Jai Samadeva Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat London Ki Jai, Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Sri Vishakatini Ki Jai, Nitya Nandi Hari Hari Bol. Kibu. Dadha Prabhu Kibu.